beautiful?
Oh, yes.
In 1973, a science fiction film gave audiences one of cinema's most shocking endings, and then something strange happened. The twist became so famous that everyone knew it, even people who'd never seen the movie. But Soylent Green is far more than its final revelation. What seemed like exaggerated science fiction in 1973 now feels like a documentary from the near future. Today, we're uncovering 20 dark secrets about Soylent Green, from Edward G. Robinson's heartbreaking final performance to the real-world technology that inspired its most brutal scenes. Let's dig in. Number 1.
Soylent Green is people!
The final line of Soylent Green is one of the most famous movie twists in history, spoiled so thoroughly it's become cultural shorthand. Charlton Heston's Detective Thorne discovers the mysterious food product feeding humanity is made from recycled human corpses, and his anguished warning became instantly iconic. Today, the line has been quoted, parodied, and memed in everything, from The Simpsons to Futurama to SNL. Yet knowing the twist doesn't ruin the film, it deepens it. Because the revelation isn't really about cannibalism, it's about how far systems of control will go to maintain power, and how willingly people accept comfortable lies rather than face unbearable truths. Number 2. Set in the year 2022. When Soylent Green hit theaters in 1973, setting the story in 2022 felt safely distant, 49 years in the future. Except now we've passed 2022, and the film feels disturbingly prescient. The specific details don't match. New York doesn't have 40 million people, but the underlying anxieties are all here. Climate chaos, resource scarcity, wealth inequality bordering on feudalism, corporate control of essentials, mass migrations, political paralysis. The film imagined greenhouse gases creating permanent heat waves, oceans dying, and food weaponized. In 1973, this was speculative fiction. Today, these are headlines. Modern audiences experience a unique horror, not imagining dystopia, but recognizing it arriving. Fleischer's vision wasn't a prediction. It was a blueprint of what happens when societies ignore existential threats until it's too late. Number 3. Based on a novel. Soylent Green is loosely adapted from Harry Harrison's 1966 novel, Make Room, and the differences reveal how Hollywood transformed a straightforward thriller into something far darker. Harrison's novel is about overpopulation and resource depletion in a future New York, but there's no cannibalism, no conspiracy, no Soylent Green is people revelation. The book's food crisis involves soybeans and lentils, hence Soylent, but it's scarcity through overpopulation, not industrial-scale recycling of human bodies. Screenwriter Stanley R. Greenberg invented the cannibalism angle specifically for the film, recognizing it would provide the gut-punch ending Hollywood thrillers demanded. Harrison later admitted he was horrified by the change initially, feeling it sensationalized his serious ecological concerns. But he eventually acknowledged the twist worked cinematically, giving audiences an unforgettable crystallization of humanity's capacity for self-destruction. The novel is thoughtful and depressing. The film is thoughtful and nightmare fuel. That single creative decision transformed a cautionary tale about birth rates into a visceral horror about how institutions dehumanize people during collapse. Number 4. Charlton Heston anchors the film. Charlton Heston plays Detective Thorne with exhausted, weary realism that grounds the entire film. By 1973, Heston had become Hollywood's go-to leading man for dystopian sci-fi, starring in Planet of the Apes and The Omega Man. But his performance here is different, less heroic, more beaten down. Thorne isn't a rebel or revolutionary. He's a tired cop navigating corruption, rationing his remaining dignity. Heston gives Thorne a lived-in quality, hoarding stolen food, inflicting casual violence, maintaining transactional relationships. This isn't a noble protagonist fighting the system. It's a compromised man surviving within it until accidentally stumbling onto the truth. At 50, Heston looked weathered and believable as someone ground down by decades of collapse. The performance isn't flashy, but it's the bedrock that makes the film's pessimism credible. Number 5. Edward G. Robinson's final role. Edward G. Robinson plays Saul Roth, Thorne's elderly roommate and Book, a human researcher in a world where knowledge has been destroyed. This was Robinson's 101st film and his last performance. Robinson was 79, battling terminal cancer during filming, and he knew he was dying. That knowledge haunts every scene. Soul's arc is about an old man who remembers the world before collapse, real food, oceans, forests, and can no longer bear living in what remains. His decision to end his life at a government euthanasia facility isn't presented as tragedy, but as dignified exit. The scene where Soul watches footage of Earth's lost beauty while listening to classical music is one of cinema's most emotionally devastating sequences, and it gains unbearable weight, knowing Robinson died just 12 days after filming wrapped in January 1973. The film is dedicated to him. Heston later said Robinson's performance in that final scene was so powerful that crew members were weeping behind the cameras. You're not watching acting, you're watching a man saying goodbye to life, art, and the world simultaneously. Number 6. A world suffocating from overpopulation. Soylent Green's central premise is Malthusian nightmare made visual. Too many people, too few resources, civilization collapsing under its own weight. In the film's 2022, New York houses 40 million people, and every available space, stairwells, abandoned cars, sidewalks, is packed with bodies. The film opens with a montage showing Earth's population exploding from billions to catastrophic overcrowding, accompanied by industrial pollution and environmental destruction. This reflects 1970s anxieties when books like The Population Bomb, 1968, warned that overpopulation would cause mass starvation and societal breakdown. Footage of real crowds, riots, protests, urban density creates visceral claustrophobia. You never see a moment of peace or privacy. People sleep in shifts. Food riots erupt constantly. The film suggests that once you cross certain population thresholds, humane governance becomes impossible and authoritarian brutality becomes inevitable. Modern demographers have complicated this narrative, pointing out that population growth is slowing and that distribution, waste, and consumption matter more than raw numbers. But the film's emotional logic remains potent. What happens when systems designed for millions must suddenly serve billions? Number 7. The color-coded food system. The Soylent Corporation produces color-coded wafer products, Soylent Red, Yellow, and the coveted green that represent humanity's entire diet. This isn't just sci-fi shorthand, it's a visual representation of how monopolies control populations through artificial scarcity and the illusion of choice. The different colors suggest variety, but they're all nutritionally identical processed wafers. Soylent Green is marketed as superior because it supposedly contains high-energy plankton, making it rare and desirable. The color coding creates hierarchy and false hope. The film shows desperate people clutching their green wafers like treasures, never questioning what they're actually eating. When survival depends on accepting the system's story, questioning becomes existentially dangerous. Number 8. Air conditioning equals wealth. In Soylent Green's hellish future, air conditioning isn't a convenience. It's a luxury that separates the powerful from the suffering masses. The film depicts New York trapped in permanent oppressive heat. When Detective Thorne breaks into a luxury apartment and experiences cold air for the first time in years, he stands motionless, savoring it like a drug. This detail takes something 1973 audiences took for granted and reveals it as privilege. The imagery of crowds suffering in sweltering heat while the wealthy exist in climate-controlled towers visualizes class inequality through something visceral, physical comfort versus constant misery. Number 9. New York as a living nightmare. Director Richard Fleischer transforms New York City into a claustrophobic hellscape. Shot on location in real streets, production design turned recognizable spaces into dystopian landscapes. Staircases packed with sleeping bodies, abandoned cars filled with homeless families, trash everywhere. The color palette is oppressively brown, yellow, and gray. Sound design amplifies the nightmare, constant sirens, shouting, human misery compressed into acoustic assault. There are no moments of beauty or urban grandeur. New York isn't a city anymore, it's a prison where 40 million people slowly suffocate. By filming in real locations with real crowds, Fleischer suggests this isn't distant fantasy, it's one bad decade away. Number 10. The Scoop. Trucks were inspired by reality. One of the film's most disturbing images is the scoops, massive dump trucks that literally shovel rioting crowds into compartments like garbage. Production designer Edward C. Carfagno modified actual garbage trucks and front loaders to create machines that physically remove human beings during crowd control. It's dehumanization made literal, people treated as refuse to be collected and disposed of. What makes this chilling is how mechanically efficient it is. There's no malice, just bureaucratic crowd management. Guards operate the scoops like any other vehicle. The banality of the horror makes it more disturbing than overt violence would be. Number 11. Silent Spring influenced the tone. Rachel Carson's 1962 book Silent Spring, which documented how pesticides were destroying ecosystems, profoundly influenced Soylent Green's ecological pessimism. The film takes Carson's warnings and extrapolates them to apocalyptic conclusion. Oceans dead, forests extinct, animals gone, the entire biosphere collapsed. Saul Roth's euthanasia scene features footage of Earth's lost beauty, whales, forests, rivers, functioning as a eulogy for the natural world. By 1973, environmental consciousness was rising, but Soylent Green asks what happens if we're already too late. When nature dies, all that's left is artificial, corporate-controlled substitutes. Carson warned about ecosystems. The film shows the endpoint. Number 12. A slow, oppressive pacing. By modern standards, Soylent Green moves glacially. Director Richard Fleischer uses long takes and extended scenes of daily misery that linger uncomfortably. But the pacing is deliberate. It makes you feel trapped in this world. Scenes of Thorne navigating crowds, waiting in lines, enduring heat go on longer than necessary because that's what life in collapse feels like. Exhausting, repetitive, inescapable. Fleischer wants you to experience despair through duration. Modern dystopian films offer spectacle and heroism. Soylent Green offers only grinding survival and delayed truth. That refusal to provide catharsis is exactly the point. Number 13. Women as commodities. The character Cheryl exemplifies one of the film's darkest elements, women reduced to literal property. Cheryl is furniture, a woman who comes with high-end apartments, provided to wealthy tenants as living appliances with no autonomy or ability to leave. The film presents this dehumanization matter-of-factly, showing how normalized it's become. This aspect reflects 1970s anxieties about gender and power, but it's aged uncomfortably. The film critiques this system implicitly as dystopian evidence of societal breakdown, but never centers Cheryl's perspective or allows her agency. The furniture concept works as world-building horror, but it also treats women's dehumanization as background texture rather than primary concern. Number 14. The film was not a box office smash. Despite becoming a cult classic and cultural touchstone, Soylent Green wasn't a major commercial success upon release in April 1973. The film earned approximately $3.6 million domestically, respectable but not blockbuster numbers. Critics gave it mixed reviews, praising the performances and atmosphere, but finding the story heavy-handed and depressing. Audiences in 1973 weren't rushing to theaters to watch humanity's grim collapse. They wanted entertainment that offered escape. The film opened against competition like The Sting and American Graffiti, which dominated the box office. Soylent Green found its audience gradually through television broadcasts, home video, and word of mouth about the famous ending. By the 1980s and 1990s, as environmental concerns intensified and dystopian fiction became more mainstream, the film was reassessed as visionary rather than alarmist. Its reputation grew precisely because the future it depicted started feeling plausible. Today, Soylent Green is considered essential dystopian cinema, frequently taught in film courses and cited as influential. But in 1973, it was just another sci-fi thriller that came and went without making major cultural waves. Time transformed it from modest genre entry to prophetic masterpiece. Number 15. Minimal special effects, maximum impact. Soylent Green achieves its oppressive atmosphere through practical filmmaking rather than special effects. There are no elaborate futuristic cityscapes or flying cars, just real New York locations, actual crowds, and heat haze cinematography. Production designer Edward C. Carfagno created the dystopian world through decay, dressing sets with garbage, blocking windows, removing comfort. The scoops were modified real vehicles. Cinematographer Richard H. Klein used filters to create the perpetual yellowish haze that makes everything look diseased. This low-tech approach makes the world feel disturbingly real. There's nothing fantastical to distance you from the horror. The lack of spectacle is the spectacle. Number 16. Food as power. The central insight of Soylent Green is that whoever controls food controls everything: populations, politics, survival itself. The Soylent Corporation has monopolized food production, making them more powerful than governments. The film shows how food scarcity creates social control. People are too busy surviving to resist. The revelation that Soylent Green is made from people isn't just shock value, it's the logical endpoint of treating food as power rather than right. This theme resonates more now than in 1973, as multinational corporations control global agriculture and crop failures trigger conflict. Number 17. The ending was meant to shock, not comfort. Soylent Green's conclusion offers no hope, no revolution, only truth revealed too late. Detective Thorne shouts the truth before collapsing from gunshot wounds, but there's no indication anything will change. The Soylent Corporation continues operating. The system remains intact. This bleak ending was deliberate. Director Richard Fleischer wanted audiences disturbed, not satisfied. Most dystopian films provide cathartic resolution, but Soylent Green refuses that comfort. The ending suggests that systems of control persist because people are complicit, exhausted, or too broken to fight. It doesn't energize you, it haunts you. Number 18. A warning, not a prediction. Soylent Green was never intended as literal prophecy. It's a cautionary tale, exaggerating 1970s trends to provoke action. The film takes concerns about overpopulation, pollution, and corporate power, then extrapolates them to apocalyptic extremes. This is classic dystopian storytelling. Like Orwell's 1984, warnings meant to change behavior by depicting consequences. Modern viewers sometimes treat the film's failed predictions as proof. It's irrelevant, but that misses the point. The fact that 2022 doesn't look exactly like Soylent Green's 2022 might mean the warning worked, not that it was wrong. Number 19. Frequently referenced and parodied. Soylent Green is people has become one of the most referenced movie lines in pop culture. The Simpsons, Futurama, SNL, and countless memes have riffed on the twist. Even people who've never seen the film know the line. This ubiquity is both blessing and curse. It proves the film's impact, but spoils the reveal completely. Yet, even knowing the twist, the film still works because it's really about systemic collapse, not just cannibalism. Becoming a meme ensures Soylent Green's ideas about corporate control and environmental destruction remain in circulation, even if distorted through humor. Number 20. More relevant now than ever. Here's the disturbing thing about watching Soylent Green today. It feels less like vintage science fiction and more like a suppressed documentary from the near future. Climate chaos intensifies annually. Corporations control essential resources with minimal accountability. Mass migrations happen as regions become uninhabitable. Every trend the film exaggerated in 1973 has accelerated. We're not eating processed corpses, but we've normalized ecological collapse and allowed profit to supersede survival. Modern viewers recognize our world in its early stages. The question isn't whether Soylent Green predicted the future accurately, it's whether we'll learn from its warning before the mechanisms it depicts become irreversible. Soylent Green endures because it understood that dystopia isn't dramatic, it's bureaucratic, grinding, and accepted as normal until suddenly it's too late. The film dared to offer no hope, only warning. If you haven't watched it recently, do yourself a favor and revisit it. You'll see the present differently. Like, subscribe, and let me know which classic dystopian film hits hardest today.